You haven't even entered the room yet. You're around the corner, maybe in the kitchen, maybe upstairs, and you say something. Anything. A word to yourself, a quiet hum, a question into the air, and your dog, wherever they are in the house, stops. Their ears shift, their head tilts. Their entire attention reorganizes around the sound of you. It happens in millions of homes, every single day, dozens of times, and most of us barely register it anymore. But have you ever stopped to wonder what's actually happening inside your dog in that exact moment? Because it turns out that split-second response to your voice has been studied, measured, and examined inside working brain scanners. And what scientists found is far more extraordinary than most people realize. To understand why your voice carries this kind of weight, you have to go back thousands of years, back to before any of this looked the way it does now. Before warm living rooms and soft beds and names called at dinner time. Back when the ancestors of dogs moved in tight coordinated packs through open landscapes and sound was survival. A low growl from a packmate meant danger. A particular whine meant food was near. Vocalizations weren't just communication. They were life or death information, processed fast and processed accurately. The animals who could read those acoustic signals best were the ones who stayed alive and stayed connected. That ancient sensitivity to voice, to tone, to pitch, to the emotional temperature inside a sound, never went away. It refined itself over roughly 15,000 years of living alongside humans, becoming something even more precise. Your dog's ancestors learned to read human vocalizations the way they once read their packmates. Every nuance, every shift in rhythm. That primal instinct didn't disappear when dogs moved into our homes. It just redirected, and the voice it learned to track most carefully, to store most deeply, to respond to most completely, became yours. Now, let's talk about what this actually looks like. Because the response to your voice isn't just one thing. It shows up in layers, in different moments, and each variation tells you something different about what's happening beneath the surface. If your dog freezes and turns toward the sound of your voice, even from a completely different room, even when you weren't speaking to them, here's what's really happening. Their auditory cortex is doing something remarkably sophisticated. It's not just detecting sound, it's recognizing you. Studies using fMRI technology on dogs have shown that a familiar human voice activates different regions of the dog brain than an unfamiliar one, including areas associated with positive emotional processing. Your dog isn't simply hearing a noise, they're registering you specifically, and something in that registration feels like something good. Then there's the behavior that quietly fascinates researchers. What happens when your dog hears your voice coming from a phone or a speaker? Some dogs circle the device, some look behind it. Some go still, almost reverently, ears forward. You might think they're confused, and there's a small layer of that, but it's actually something much more tender. Your voice has been imprinted as an emotional anchor. It carries association, warmth, memory. When your dog hears you but can't locate you, what you're watching isn't confusion so much as longing. The voice activated the whole emotional signature of your presence, and now they're searching for the rest of it. Here's where it gets really interesting. Your dog is not primarily listening to your words. They are listening to you. The warmth in your voice when you're genuinely happy to see them. The flatness when you're distracted or stressed. The soft, slower cadence you naturally shift into when you speak to them directly. Research published in the journal Science found that dogs process the emotional tone of voice in the right hemisphere of the brain, the same hemisphere humans use for emotional processing of speech, while familiar words activate a separate reward region. Your dog has essentially built a two-track system for listening to you. One for meaning, one for feeling. And the feeling track, that one runs deeper. Now, there's something most owners don't realize about this. The pause that happens when you say your dog's name isn't just trained recall. Yes, they've learned it. But the reason it carries such weight goes beyond repetition. Their name, in your voice, has been paired hundreds of thousands of times with safety, with food, with warmth, with the beginning of good things. Over time, it becomes less a word and more a signal that says, "You are seen, you are here, the person who matters most knows you exist right now." That's not conditioning. That's something closer to being known. And this is the part that surprised researchers. When neuroscientists at Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest placed dogs inside MRI machines and played recordings of their owners' voices versus strangers' voices, the dogs' brains didn't just respond differently. They responded in a way that maps onto emotional recognition. The auditory cortex lit up, yes. But so did regions tied to reward and social bonding. Familiar voices didn't just register as familiar, they registered as meaningful. What this tells us is something quiet and profound. Your dog doesn't just recognize your voice the way they might recognize a sound associated with their leash. They recognize you the way we recognize the people we love, with a response that has emotional weight baked into it. Researchers describe this as voice identity mapping, and in dogs, this mapping forms specifically around the humans they are most securely attached to. There's a concept in attachment science called a secure base effect. The idea that a deeply trusted figure creates a kind of internal safety that allows for calm, for exploration, for rest. Your voice, because of everything it has meant across your dog's life, has become part of that secure base. It carries information that no other sound carries. It says, "The world is predictable right now. The person I trust is here. Everything is as it should be." Know that every time your dog orients towards your voice, every pause, every head tilt, every quiet stillness, you are seeing that trust in its most unguarded form. You did that. Your presence, your consistency, your voice saying their name across thousands of ordinary moments built that. And here's something fascinating. This isn't a one-way street. The benefits of that voice recognition bond flow in both directions, and science has caught up to what dog owners have quietly suspected for years. Studies measuring cortisol levels, the primary stress hormone in both humans and dogs, have found that speaking gently to your dog and hearing them respond lowers cortisol in both of you, simultaneously. The same voice that anchors your dog is anchored in its own way by your dog's response to it. There's a phrase researchers use for this kind of mutual physiological synchrony: co-regulation. It's the same process that happens between securely bonded humans, where the calm of one genuinely transfers to the other through proximity, sound, presence. Your dog didn't just learn to respond to your voice. In some quiet biological sense, your nervous systems learned to speak to each other. You became, across time, each other's comfort frequencies. So what is your dog really telling you when they stop everything? When they lift their head, shift their weight, and turn the whole compass of their attention toward the sound of your voice? They are telling you that you are the frequency they've been tuned to, that your voice carries something no other sound in their world carries: the accumulated weight of every safe moment, every warm return, every quiet evening spent close. You are not just a familiar sound. You are their orientation point, their still center. The voice that, above all others, means home. They are telling you, in the oldest, quietest language they have, that they choose you. And honestly, after a long day, when you walk through that door and your dog lifts their head at the sound of your voice before you've even said a word, that's not a small thing. That's 15,000 years of evolution arriving, right on time, to remind you that you are profoundly, unmistakably known. Thanks for watching. If you loved learning about your furry best friend, be sure to like and subscribe for more.